It's my thank you. It's my pleasure to welcome you all for the fourth day session of the PDP program and to introduce the resource person for the day, Dr. Sridhara Setti, Principal, SM Shetty College, Mumbai. He has more than 26 years of teaching experience. He took charge as a principal of Bans Sanghas, SM Chetty College of Science, Commerce and Management Studies in Powai, Mumbai in October 2008. He served as president of Mangalore University Commerce Teachers Association for 3 years, and he served as a president of Federation of Teachers Council of Commerce and Management in Karnataka for 2 years, and served as first president of Mangalore University MCOM Alumni Association, and he served as a member of Board of Studies of Commerce and Board of Examination of Mangalore University and Board of Exchange members of Mangalore University. He organized many state level, national level, and international conferences and seminars in Mangalore, Bangalore, and Mumbai. He is also acted as a resource person for research methodology workshops, and he published many papers, national journals with impact factors, and served as convener of local inspection committee of University of Mumbai. And he got two best teacher awards from social organization in Mumbai. And he also served as a NAC member, assessor of higher education institution of Bangalore. Having said all that, we are extremely happy to have had the opportunity to have him as a resource person for our program. Thank you for accepting our invitation, sir. Now, I hand over the session to Sridhara Setti, sir.
At the very outset, good morning to all of you. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you're audible.
Thank you. Thank you for saying a few kind words about me. At the very outset, I'm thankful to the principal of the college and also Dr. Sweetie, who called me, I think, nearly 1 month ago to accept as one of the resource persons for the research methodology workshop of the Patrician College, Chennai. Thank you so much for considering me. So in spite of our busy schedules in Mumbai, lockdowns and all that, I accepted it because it is academics. Now, the topic given to me today is sampling and different sampling techniques. It is one of the areas in research which is highly technical. Before going to my area as such, I will take 10 to 15 minutes to say something about the research also. Because just now I have glanced at the profile of the respected participants, and most of them are research aspirants or PhD aspirants. I can recollect my old days when I was doing the research. It was very difficult to a fresher to penetrate into the research area in the beginning. One needs 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years to understand some of the basic concepts of the research. Leave apart selecting a topic or a title. Now coming to the research process, choose the comfortable and competent domain. Respected participants, What do you mean by the comfortable and competent domain? Especially in commerce, we teach in finance, we teach marketing, we teach HR, and so be other areas. Okay. And that area may be comfortable for you because you have been teaching this subject for a couple of years. And you have prepared well, even for the classrooms also, so that that area may be a comfortable area for you. And again, not only comfortable, but a competent domain. You have to select an area which has some weightage also. For example, in finance, which area you are going to select? In marketing, consumer behavior, or in HR, the human relations. Therefore, not only confined to commerce, even sociology, political science, history, in other subjects also. So therefore, the first and the foremost area, dear the aspirants of research, choose the comfortable and the competent domain. Then research starts with a problem of interest to the researcher and to the community. Today, in the modern era, in the present context, research begins with a research problem. And one has to raise the research problem. And that research problem raised to be of interest to the researcher and to the community. Ultimately, it be useful to the community. Now, the point here is, experts in the field say that, or the great researchers in the field say that there's a difference between the old research and the new research. What in the old research, maybe 25 years back, and the current, you are going to do that. In the old research, it was confined to finding out the truth or the solution to the problem, and ultimately addition to the knowledge. Over. Addition to the knowledge. But today, since you are raising the problem of interest of research to you and to the community, it is not only finding the truth, it is more than that. It is uncovering the facts which are suppressed, which are hidden, bringing to the surface level, and properly interpretation of the misunderstood facts or ignored facts. And do you know the ultimate contribution of the modern research? And the contribution would involve action and change. Action and change. For example, C.K. Prahalad, C means, I think, Coimbatore, a great researcher in the field of management, C.K. Prahalad. You might have heard about his profit at the bottom of the pyramid. Profit at the bottom of the pyramid. It means that previously shampoos were sold in bulk quantities, 1 liter, 2 liters, like that, meant for the rich and the super rich people. The middle, the lower middle, the poor people cannot buy it. And he brought the concept of what is called as profit at the bottom of the pyramid. See, just imagine the pyramid. Top, it is narrow. At the bottom, wide. Wide means vast number of consumers. So he suggested selling the sachets, shampoos in small sachets. And sales doubled, multiplied. Therefore, this concept has resulted in action and change. Therefore, it should result in action and change. So it should have a social and economic value and relevance. Select those areas which are quite relevant to social and economic value and relevance. And you can expect one question in a good Viva, those examinations. Well, gentlemen, after 1 hour, we are going to declare you as a doctorate. What is your contribution by doing this research to the social field, to the economic field? That's very important. And finally, choose a particular topic in the domain. Topic in the domain. Marketing is an area. Marketing. And topic, consumer behavior, attitude and behavior, brand building, HR relations, job satisfaction, particular areas in the domain, and develop the topic into your research area. So these are some of the things which I would like to highlight. For example, one of my guides scholar, he did it, marketing of healthcare services in the rural area. I think health is the most neglected area in India, which we have the experience right now. And that too in the rural area, most neglected one. But he had done a research, did a research, that is marketing of healthcare services in the rural area, socially relevant, and it has some economic value. So these are some of the broad ideals you should keep in mind while choosing a particular area from your what's called as comfortable and competent domain. Okay. Next is Albert Zent, a Nobel Prize winner. It has defined research as research is to see what everybody else has seen it. Everybody else has seen it. And to think what nobody else has thought. This is research. Everybody has seen it. Everybody has seen it that apple is falling down from the tree. Everybody has seen it. But Sir Isaac Newton questioned it. Why did the apple fall? And why it has not gone up? He has questioned it. In 1905, Wright brothers, repairing the cycle on the roadside, they thought of looking at the bird. Everybody has seen the bird. They thought of looking at the bird. Why can't we fly like birds? They thought in that way, differently. And they imagined it. And afterwards, they added engineering for that, imagineering. And afterwards, it was history. I will give a small example. I am from the state of Karnataka, the neighboring state of Tamil Nadu. Okay. And in some of the places, we get a heavy rainfall. And there's one area in Karnataka called as Jog Falls. Water is falling from a very great height during the rainy season, from a very great height. And when the water falls, it shows different peaks or different shapes. And one shape is just like Raja, King, Rani, Queen, Diamond, like that, in a different style. When we go there, oh, how Raja, Rani, rocket, like that, different shapes of falling the water. But when Bharat Ratna Sir M. Vishwesharaya, when we went there, he did not see these pictures at all. And he just uttered one sentence. What a waste of energy. And his perception is totally different. So you can look at the things from a different perception, from a newer perception. And that would lead to quality research. How it is possible? Thinking, 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 thinking. So what we need, the researchers, good researchers, what's called as a kind of scientific temper. Scientific temper. This is a concept used by Jawaharlal Nehru in Parliament. When Jawaharlal Nehru was speaking to the parliamentarians, he requested his colleagues to develop the scientific temper. It means the questioning attitude. Questioning does not mean quarreling. There should be a questioner inside you, questioning why it's happening like that. So everybody has seen it, but nobody has thought in that way. That will lead to a right kind of a good qualitative, socially, economically relevant research. Now, I always say to my research scholars also, one quote from Rudyard Kipling, Indian-born English poet, poetry and research, an odd couple, the title of the poem. Poetry and research, an odd couple. There's no relationship at all. But he links the relationship below. He says, I keep 6 honest serving men with me. They taught me all that I knew. Their names are what and why and when and how and where and who. They taught me all that I knew today. This is what I mean by silently questioning why it's happening like that. Next one, research and the puzzle, great insights. I will ask to the participants a simple question here. And my question is, how many squares are there in the box? And one can, looking at the chat box and say the answers also. So how many squares are there in the box? And my question is simple and straightforward. Simple and straightforward. How many squares are there in the box? How logically, how creatively you can think. Afterwards, we can connect this thinking to your research. I will give 1 minute of time to you. Organizers, can you say the answers? I think many answers came.
Sir, 21.
Okay.
36, 27, 28, 24, 17, 64.
Okay.
37.
Okay, the pick is quite visible, isn't it?
Yes, I can view.
Yeah, yeah.
29.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah. Still, I did not get the right answer. And this question is simple and straightforward. Sida Sada.
28.
No, no.
24. 25.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm, hmm.
16. 32. 72. 42.
No,
20,
no,
21.
no.
4. 44.
Okay,
44.
okay,
23.
okay,
30.
okay. 30 is the right answer. 30 is the right answer. Who said 30? Congratulations to you. Now, what is the takeaway value from this and how we can calculate this? I will come to this point now. Now, for the knowledge of the participants, the whole box itself is one. It's a square. See the perception level. And afterwards, small 16. Understood? 1 plus 16, 17. And see, take the 4, 4 this side, 4 this side, below 4 and below 4. I think 21, 21. 1, 17, then 4. I am a researcher. And for me, data and information are very, very important, which makes the qualitative change in my research. See my perception. I will dig deeper into my area. See the middle one, the middle one, the middle one. Rarely people can see that, the middle one. 1, 2, 3, 4. It is also a square. I think 22 over 22. Now again, you can take 3, 3. 3, 3 also. 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3 from this side. From this side. And from this side. From this side. I think 4 you will get it. 4 will get it. And again, if you are a very sincere, very committed, and more than that, creative researcher, see the middle one, middle, this side 4, this side 4. And again here, upper 4 and upper 1 and below 1, 4. 22. 22 plus 4, 26 plus 4, 30 squares. What is the takeaway value of this exercise to the research? At the outset, when I said how many squares are there in this box, many might have thought this is an easy one. So apparently, your research looks quite simple and straightforward. But when you select the topic, when you interact with the guide and other people, when you attend many more research workshops and all that, and many resource persons are giving different dimensions of the research, I think confusion, lot of confusion. However, if you dig deeper into that, deeper that, you can extract the qualitative data from that. Qualitative, from the right source, from different perspective, from different dimensions, political, social, cultural, all these. And you can dismantle from different directions. Therefore, this what's called as this exercise is just the tip of the iceberg. But when you take this very seriously, I think you are going to gather enormous quantity of relevant data and information. Relevant data, information are very, very important. Very, very important. Now, I will give one small example, okay? Small example. I take just 2 minutes. In Bombay, it has happened that one old lady, rich lady, living alone. And in Bombay, housemaids are coming. One day, this rich lady, instead of donating the old furniture to NGOs, ashrama, some schools and all that, she has donated to the housemaid. Okay, housemaid. And they were in a very good relationship. After 1 month, housemaid stopped coming to work to the house abruptly. Okay, abruptly. There's no information, intimation from outside to the owner. Owner tried to call the housemaid, but no response from her side. And she has joined elsewhere. And our previous assumption was, oh, 25 worth of furniture. She would be more committed, more loyal, may come early in the morning and stay back. Stay back. Even during the festivals also, may come 1 hour in the evening and clean the floor and all those things. This lady expected the owner. And after receiving the 25 worth furniture and all that, she thought, if I used to go to this house regularly, I should be more committed and I should be more loyal, which I don't want. She changed the thought. See the perception, see the theory, our theory and the new theory. And if you think differently in that way, I think the present research is quite interesting. The next aspect is our topic, sampling and different sampling methods. Meaning of sampling. Simple meaning of sampling. A predetermined number of observations taken from a larger population. Number of observations taken. Number of observations is nothing but the sample size from a larger population. Now, here there are many terms which we are going to study afterwards. One is the population. Other one is universe and a number of observations. For example, my college strength is 2,500. And if I have taken only 250, and 250 for my survey is called as the sample size, number of observations taken from a larger population. Population is 2,500. So a predetermined number of observations taken from a larger population. Just a minute. Why? Now, why the sampling over census? Okay. Why sampling over census? Sampling, you know, it is a subset of the population, as I told right now. 250 I have taken as the sample size. Total strength of the college, 2,500, that's the population. Sampling. Over census. Census means you are covering the entire population. Don't confine the meaning of census once we take in 10 years of time in India. Census means the entire population. In research is called as census. So why we are going for sampling over census? See the benefits of it. On the basis of the time, we can save the time, we can save the cost, and we can save the energy. So instead of going for 2,500, administering the questionnaire to all of them, we can take away the sample size, and we can save the time, we can save the cost, and we can save the energy. For example, you are doing some research on the people who buy and sell the shares. You may get the data with the brokers, and maybe 5,000 or 10,000. What is the need of going for 5,000 or 10,000? Because the entire population of your region buying and selling of shares or dealing with the mutual funds. So go for the sampling. We can save time, cost, and energy. Now, second is generalization and representation. For example, the college strength is 2,500. I have selected 10% of it and 250. And if I take 250 properly selected and all the research methodology properly applied, and I got the findings, and that findings can be generalized for the next 2,500 students. It's possible because the 250 number which I selected is the representative of 2,500. And if you properly done that research, it is going to give the accurate results. So this is the advantage of sampling over census. Now coming to sampling design. Dear participants, this is very, very important for you. Universe and population. What in the universe and population, and what is the difference between the two? Now, for example, in Mumbai University, the total intake for first year BCom, let us assume 1 lakh. 1 lakh. Last year, 1 lakh. But the actual admission was 95,000 only. And 1 lakh is called as the universe. 95,000, which actual admission taken place, is called as the population. 1 lakh is called as in research theoretical population. Theoretical. 95,000 actually is called as the practical population. One important point is sample is always taken not from the universe, but from the population. For example, my total intake of the college is 2,600. Whatever given by University of Mumbai, full strength, and it is 2,600. If 2,600 did not happen, only 2,500 happened, then 2,600, the full strength as sanctioned by the university, is the universe. And 2,500 actual admissions taken called as a population. I think I clarified this point, universe and population. You can apply to the Madras University also in your area in that way. Now, and one more point which I highlighted was sample is always taken from the population. Well, this population could be either finite or infinite. Finite or infinite. What is the meaning of this finite and infinite? Finite means number is definite. Number is definite. Infinite means number is not definite. Number is not definite. For example, Madras University, all the programs, PG, UG, and all those things, number is finite. Mumbai University, all the programs, intake, etc., number is finite because this college is given this much of strength. The rural area, this college, like that, like that, like that. There's a record for that. Mumbai University, our college is given this much of strength, which we have to upload even for the NAC purpose also. Therefore, it is finite. Okay. And what is the total number of employees in Karur Vaishya Bank? It's available. It's finite. Bank of Baroda, Union Bank, State Bank of India, maybe the biggest bank, but actual number is available. Finite population, finite. And in some places, it's not possible to calculate the number, then it is infinite. What is the number of cigarette smokers in my Powai area? A radius of 10 kilometers. We don't have the list. How many workers came to Mumbai from Rajasthan, interior decorators and all that? We don't have the list. Don't have the list. So in some cases, we have the exact list, and in certain cases, we don't have the list at all. So if we have the list, it is called as finite. For example, Mumbai University strength last year was 7 lakh, finite, and we have the proof for that. How many people gathered in the election campaign, in the political campaign of the Prime Minister or the Chief Minister? We cannot count it, not possible. A rough idea only, infinite. So this is what in by finite, infinite, universe, and population. Next one, sampling frame. What in by sampling frame? Unique address of all the respondents available, so that you can go to them and you can contact them and you can administer the questionnaire also. Frame. For example, if you are doing some research on 2 banks of a particular geographical area, and you have selected some 10 to 15 branches of each of the banks, exact number is available, employee number is available, or Aadhaar card is available, or in some areas, rural areas and all that, if you are doing the research, even ration card number is available, PAN number is available. So where unique address of all the respondents available, that's called as a sampling frame. You are going to 10 share brokers and they have the list. When they have the list, they have the proper address proof, PAN number, DMAT account, all those things. From the list, you can select. This is called as sampling frame. Understand it properly, the concepts. Sampling unit. Sampling unit. See the meaning of sampling unit. On whose behalf response is taken is called as the sampling unit. On whose behalf response is taken. For example, we can take the response from a college, from banks, from organizations, from people, etc., etc. Whether it is college or bank or organization, ultimately, there are some authorized people who speak about their organizations. People actually give. On whose behalf they are giving? On behalf of the college, on behalf of the banks, on behalf of some organizations, on behalf of some industry, etc. And these industries, these banks, these colleges are called as sampling units. They are called as sampling units. And sampling methods or techniques which we will come across afterwards one by one, elaborately in a detailed way, probability and non-probability sampling. And last one is the sample size, how to determine the sample size. And this is purely statistical. I am not going to deal with the statistical part of it. If you know the knowledge of statistics and all that, get the expert opinion about that. And it is said that if the language is not up to the mark, you can take the help of the English teachers or the literature teachers. There's no harm in it. And if you are very poor or do not know anything about statistics and all that, and in 60, 70, 80% of the cases, people go for even the statistical help from others. So these are some basic concepts. So basic sampling concepts, I think I made it very clear about the concepts in a very simple language. So population or universe. I differentiated between universe and population. Then sampling frame. Well, unique address is available. Then sample units and the elements. Elements is that nothing but the small units of numbers and all that. Now let's come to the very important aspects, that is sampling techniques. Okay, sampling techniques. Sampling techniques is of two types. One is probability sampling and other one is non-probability sampling. Okay, probability and non-probability sampling. Most of the researchers in the beginning find it very difficult to understand, digest, and internalize these concepts, probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Now, see the clarity between the two, probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Coming to probability sampling, sampling frame is available. It is the condition. Sampling frame is available. Second is, researchers have no say in the choice of the samples. What in the sampling frame? Already explained. Unique identification is available. For example, there are nearly or more than 300 participants, and you have come from your respective colleges, and you know your strength, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, 3,000. Even the number is very big, 3,000, but for each student, there is a unique identification. Unique identification, PAN number, Aadhaar card, or some other address proof, or from the university, which is called as a permanent registration number, PRN number. Within 6 months, university is generating it. And this is sampling frame is available. So sampling frame is available, and then researchers have no say in the choice of the samples. What do you mean by that? Let us see afterwards. In that case, then it is a probability sampling. You are doing some banks, for example, banks. Exact number is available, employees. Or LIC, government departments. Even if you select in 5 villages, some 200 farmers, then Aadhaar cards, or what do you mean by ration cards, or Kisan Patra may be available. Sampling frame it is. Sampling frame. Then non-probability sampling. No sampling frame is available here. What do you mean by no sampling frame? As I given in the beginning, we cannot identify how many smokers are there in the city of Chennai. Is it not possible? We do not have the address. No, don't have the address. How many carpenters came from UP to Mumbai? We don't have. Don't have. So therefore here, no sampling frame is available. Therefore, the condition is researchers have complete say in the choice of the samples. You have a liberty and freedom to choose the samples. I will come to that point afterwards. What do you mean by that? Now, sampling methods. Okay. Already I explained that probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Probability sampling and non-probability sampling. And under probability sampling or random sampling methods, there are four methods. There are four methods. One is simple random sampling, systematic random sampling, stratified random sampling, cluster and multi-stage sampling. Probability or random sampling. Non-probability, non-random sampling, we have here also four types. Convenience sampling, judgmental or purposive sampling, quota sampling, and snowball sampling. Okay. Now, dear participants, I would like to clarify the concept random. We use the term random in our day-to-day practice also. Randomly, I have selected those t-shirts or shirts randomly. But in research, the meaning of random is different. In research, the meaning of random is by chance or by lottery. By chance or by lottery. But on a day-to-day practice, if I selected 4 shirts or 3 shirts, 3 t-shirts, etc., it is not by chance or lottery. In a deliberate attempt, we select it. This color is not suitable for me or to my son or my like that. That is our day-to-day connotation meaning, random. But in research, the meaning of random is by chance or by lottery. Let us see how it is afterwards. So here, simple random sampling, systematic random sampling, stratified random sampling. You might have heard about in research strata or stratum means classifications. Okay, cluster and multi-stage sampling. And non-probability, it is convenience sampling, judgmental or purposive sampling, quota sampling, snowball sampling. Okay, let us see the next one. Probability or random sampling methods and its characteristics. Probability or random sampling methods, characteristics. Now, what are the characteristics? It gives equal chance or weightage to all the elements or cases in the population. Equal chance, equal weightage. For example, we have decided to conduct one survey, quite relevant about the library, about the canteen, about the sports facility, etc., etc. Student satisfaction survey of NAC. So here, for example, if you provide all the 2,500 data to them, each and every student has a chance. They can select anybody like that. So gives equal chance to all the elements, cases in the population. No discriminatory in nature, and it's more egalitarian. Egalitarian means gives equal opportunity to all the elements in the population. No discrimination at all. For example, if some method is applied and you are going to the third year classes, and if particular method is applied, then you have to go accordingly, and those students who are selected as per that method called. And the class teacher cannot go to the particular class and say that this student, because they are very close or very brilliant. No discrimination. And useful to estimate population parameters based on the sample. Dear participants, please understand this technical word, okay? Useful to estimate population parameters based on the sample. Now, what in by parameters, population parameters? You might have heard about mean, median, standard deviation, variance, etc., etc. These are called as parameters based on the sample. For example, in my college, 250 students are selected, and if I calculate the mean age or the median age, the variance, the standard deviation, etc., of this 250, and it has been done properly, and these values, parameters, can be applied to 2,500 population also. Now read that sentence. Useful to estimate population parameters. How? We have calculated the parameters of the sample that can be applied to the population. And more validity in generalization means 250, and we got the findings, outcome of the research that can be applied to the entire population of 2,500. But the last one is requires the sampling frame. List of the population is required. So list of the population. Now please understand all these things, probability or random sampling methods and their characteristics. Go to the next one. Simple random sampling. Okay, simple random sampling. Gives equal chance to all the elements in the population. Okay. Useful whenever the population under study is more homogeneous data. It creates problem in case of heterogeneous population. Simple random sampling. For example, you are a class teacher of a class and the size of the class is 90 students. 90. Simple random means, for example, in our day-to-day practice, you go to the class, I want 5 students, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In research terminology, random is different. For example, if you want 5 students out of 90, put the roll numbers from 1, 2, 3, 4 in a slip of paper, put in a drum, shuffle it, then properly shuffle it, and invite one student, take one slip, and number is 37. Take the number out. For another student, properly shuffle it, take one, pick, and number is 53. In that way, you are selecting 5 students. This is called as simple lottery method or random. By chance, by chance or by lottery. In Bombay, MADA houses are distributed. MADA houses are built by the government of Maharashtra or by the BMC, Bombay Municipal Corporations. Maharashtra Housing Authority Development Corporation, like that. Every year they construct the house. The houses may be in 1 year, 500 flats or 600 or 700 flats in the entire municipal corporation area. Still they adopt the lottery method. Lottery method. Not the way which I expressed, putting the slips and all that in a particular box and taking, not in that way. They use the Excel sheets. Through that, it's possible to find out the winners. Winners. Southern states were very popular. I don't know now, but previously for the lotteries. Not only the convention type of lottery, but even the single digit also. Lottery started in the state of Kerala. Then Tamil Nadu also organized it, and Karnataka also organized it. And I had visited the spots where they pick the numbers also. Pick the numbers. I don't know now, but previously they're putting the numbers in a particular box or a drum, and in this way they what's called stir it, and they take out one, next one, next one, next one, and 5, 6 digits. So this technique is called as a simple random sampling. But in our academic research, this method is not so popular. Not so popular. So this is about simple random sampling. But random word, you should understand from our day-to-day practice what is the meaning of that. But in research, what is the practice or what is the meaning? Means it is a kind of lottery or it is a kind of chance. Second one, systematic random sampling. Now, systematic random sampling. Divide the target population into sampling intervals. Okay, first point. Now, sampling interval is determined by dividing the number of cases in the sampling frame or the population by the sample size. By the sample size. Example. You can see the example. 500 households in the population. 500 households in the population in one geographical region. One geographical region. Research sample you have selected 100. 100. Now, sample interval is decided. Interval, not sample size, sample interval. How? The total population of that region or population is 500 and sample size is 100. Divided by 100, you will get 5. So therefore, the researcher can select households numbered 5th item, 10th item, 15th item, 20th item, 480, 85, 490, 495, and 500th item. In that way, systematic random sampling. That 5 is a chance. For example, I think here it is mentioned that researcher can select each case in this interval. So 1, next 5, then 10, then 15, then 20, 495, then 500. In that way. In that way. And you do not have any choice. If you are interested to call 4, you cannot call 4. You cannot call 6. Somewhere I mentioned in the beginning, the researcher do not have the choice to include or to delete. to include X or to delete Y. You do not have the choice. For example, in my college, I told the college strength is 2,500. Okay, 2,500. This is the population. I want 200. The sample size is 250. The sample size is 250. Then 2,500 divided by 250. I think the sample interval is 10 only. 10 only. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 goes on. 2,480, 2,490, and 2,500. Systematic random sampling. If you have the voters list of a particular village or a town, and there are 3,500 voters in that area, you can adopt this method. Okay. And if you have the list of the stock investors buying and selling of shares of 10 brokers, see that. If you have the list of mutual fund buyers and sellers, see that. How to get them. So systematic random sampling. Next is stratified random sampling. Just a minute. A combination of randomness and representativeness. Stratified the target population according to some criteria or strata. Cases are then randomly drawn from each strata, and we can draw samples from each stratum proportionately or disproportionately. Now, stratified random sampling, proportionate stratified sampling, disproportionate stratified sampling. Proportionate. The number of elements drawn from a subset is in proportion to the size of the subset in the sampling frame or population. The number of cases drawn from a subset is in disproportion to the sampling or population size of the subset. I think you can better understand this with the help of examples. Now see the example. Now, for your better understanding, I have given the profile of a college. Population is 3,000. Sample size, we need 600. Both proportionate and disproportionate stratified sampling is given here. And why the name stratified? We have stratified the population into arts faculty, commerce faculty, and science faculty. A stratum, a classification is required because their profiles are different. Now, number of students in arts faculty 400, commerce 2,000, and science 600, and totally 3,000, equal to the total number of students in the college. And total 3,000 and sample 600. Now, percentage of population, see, percentage of population. Out of 3,000 population of the college, arts 400, it means 13%. Commerce students, 2,000 students out of 3,000, their percentage is 67%. And science 600, it is 20%, which is equal to now 100%. So stratum is over. Arts, commerce, science. Stratum is over. Now proportionate and disproportionate. And I will clarify why proportionate and disproportionate. Now, proportionate sample I have taken as it is. As it is. Okay. As it is means, for example, number of students arts 400, and 13% we have taken, and it is 78. Proportionate only. And commerce 67% we have taken, and out of 600, it's 402. And science, college is also 20%, and from the sample size also we have taken 20% out of 600. So it is 120. So total is equal to 600. It means you are drawing the same percentage from the subset also. Subset is 400, 2,600. And disproportionate. And you thought that 13% may not be the representative 78 students out of 400. They are not homogeneous, somewhat heterogeneous, so that if I take more number, then I am going to get accurate data. So you have increased it to 25%, disproportionate to that number, 150. And in the second case, 402 not required, too much. I will reduce it, 270. And in case of science also, 20% proportionate, not sufficient. So I should go for 30%. So here also, ultimately, the number is equal to 600 in the later case, and in the former case also, it is 600. The first one is proportionate, and the second one is disproportionate. The point is, why should you go for disproportionate? Now, when you go and see in the population, more variability, then more sample size is required. That is the justification. When the data is more variable, then if you have more number of sample, then I think we are going to get somewhat the accurate data. For that purpose, we are going for disproportionate sample. Now, go to the next one. And this is the last one under probability random sampling method. Cluster and multi-stage sampling. Cluster, you know, this cluster, that cluster. In Bombay, we call this as the zone, like that, cluster and multi-stage sampling. And what is the meaning of this cluster and multi-stage sampling? Whenever the sampling framework for large population is not available. This is also known as area sampling, as it is usually selected as a geographical basis. Different sampling frames at different levels. It involves different stages. And clusters are selected in the beginning and elements at the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 characteristics are there here. And with the next 2 examples, you can understand all the characteristics. Okay, yeah. Sample one. Sorry, example one. Sample size 200 hostel inmates we need. Hostel inmates 200. For example, IIT Bombay, IIT Madras, IIT Kharagpur. So many hostels are there. Okay. Total number of hostels in the campus, 8 hostels. 8 hostels. Randomly chosen hostels, 4. Stratified sampling. I think I have explained previously. They adopted some method. So out of 8, they have chosen 4. Chosen 4. So one stage is over. From each hostels, 50 hostel inmates are chosen. So sample size 50 into 4, it is 200. So first we have selected the hostels. That is the first stage. And the second stage is from each of the hostels, you have selected 50 respondents, 50 into 4, 200. So 2 stages involved here. I will give one more example so that you can understand. Okay, yeah. Example 2, multi-stage sampling. Entire Kerala is covered here. Entire Kerala, one stage. In Kerala, there are 14 districts. 14 districts. So one district was selected. One district was selected finally. And the district selected is a Thrissur district. Thrissur district. Second stage is over. In Thrissur district, there are 92 Gram Panchayats, GP. 92 Gram Panchayats. And out of 92 Gram Panchayats, 5 Gram Panchayats are selected. 5 Gram Panchayats are selected. Coming to stage 3, 5 Gram Panchayats. And from each of these Gram Panchayats, 5 Gram Panchayats, 100 self-help groups are selected. Self-help groups are selected. So 5 respondents from each of this one. So 100 Gram Panchayat, 5 Gram Panchayats, 100 self-help groups are selected. So 500 is the respondents. So these are stages 1, 2, 3. Entire geographical area is covered. I will give one more example. For example, Karnataka, entire state of Karnataka. Okay. The state of Karnataka, entire state of Karnataka can be divided into 4 geographical areas to start with. Coastal Karnataka, the Mangalore, Udupi, Karwar, etc. Coastal Karnataka. Then Ghats section and Deccan places and all that, second one. Deccan places, second. And the Bangalore region and North Karnataka, Northern Karnataka, etc. 4 major classifications. Okay, yeah, one stage is over. From each of these regions, 2 districts are selected. Coastal Karnataka, 2 districts selected. Then Deccan, Ghat section, 2 districts selected. Bangalore, 2 districts selected. And Northern Karnataka, 2 districts are selected. So 8 districts are selected from the entire state of Karnataka. You can apply to Tamil Nadu also. This is the second stage. Okay, yeah. Now, one taluk or one block from each of the districts is selected. One taluk or one block from each of the districts. There are 2 districts. So 2 talukas or 2 blocks are selected. So 2 blocks, 2 talukas from coastal Ghat section or the Deccan, the Bangalore, and the northern Karnataka, 2, 2, 2, 2. So 8 blocks, 8 taluks are selected. One more stage happened. Afterwards, 2 villages are selected. 2 villagers are selected from these talukas. Two villages selected. 2 villages. I mean, one each means 2. 2 blocks or 2 talukas. 1 village from each of these selected. So again, it is 8 villages. 8 villages. And this is the third stage. And 8 villages. And from each of these villages, 50 farmers are selected. 8 villages, 50 farmers are selected. 50 into 8, it is 400. That is the 400 sample size for the entire state of Karnataka. Cluster different places and multi-stage. So this system is called as cluster and multi-stage sampling. So these are the some of the methods under probability random sampling, which are those. First one is called as simple random technique. Second one is systematic random sampling, which I have given the example of dividing the intervals. Stratified sampling. Stratified means the college, the arts, the commerce, and the science. Proportionate, disproportionate. And the best example for stratified random sampling, go to the university, Mumbai University, Madras University, or any big university. See the strata there, strata. Now, strata, assistant professors, 1 category. Associate professors, 2nd category. Professors, 3rd category. And you know, the number in case of professors is somewhat less. Associate professors, somewhat big number. And very large number is found in assistant professors. Strata, accordingly. You can take the proportionate or you can take disproportionate also. Okay, now go to some banks. Clerical cadre, officers cadre, managers cadre, executive cadre, and the what's called as next to the the executive cadre, 5 categories you can make. So this is a stratified random sampling. And among the clerical cadre, how many? And from the officers cadre, how many? From the managers cadre, how many? From the executive cadre, how many? From the next cadre, how many? Stratified random, maybe proportionate or disproportionate, depending upon the situation. Next one. So we have completed this one. Yeah, go to the next next method is non-probability sampling, or called as non-random sampling. When we can use this method, not based on the theory of probability. All the 4 methods, previous one, based on the theory of probability. Likely to happen, probability. Samples are selected, see the point, on the basis of your personal judgment, convenience of the researcher. Organizers select a small mass, typical or representative of the whole. Judgment of the organizers play an important role in sampling design. But the disadvantage is danger of bias. Large requires importance cannot be handled. Large inquiries cannot be handled. Not available for even statistical treatment sometimes. However, if investigations are impartial, unbiased, possesses necessary experience, then tolerately it is reliable. Go to the next one. There are 4 types here also. You might have heard about convenience sampling, purpose use sampling, are also called as judgmental sampling, quota sampling, snowball sampling. These are the 4 non-random sampling methods. Next one, convenience sampling. We select the elements out of our convenience only. Used in mall intercepts, street surveys, emails, etc. Now, in the beginning, I distinguished between probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Okay. Understand in a easier way. When population frame is not available, then you have to go for what is called as non-random sampling methods. Population frame means unique identification of the respondents not available. The people who visit the malls, cinema theaters, we do not have the population frame or their unique identification. So used in mall intercepts, street surveys, emails, etc. Or sometimes, according to your reasoning, according to your judgment, if you are conducting some survey and population frame is not available, ultimately it's left your judgment from where you can get such information or vital data. Go to that area and you conduct it. Okay. And second is called as the purposive sampling or judgmental sampling. And what is the meaning of that? Some sampling requires choice of experts who are quite apt to our sampling. They possess the characteristics which our sample requires. We go to them and elicit the information. Purposive sampling, judgmental sampling. See the meaning of that, purposive judgmental sampling. You are conducting what's called as some research. And ultimately you come to the conclusion that I will get necessary and important vital information from a particular segment of population. I will go there, which may be a small sample, but I will get right from the horse's mouth. And that type is called as what's called as purposive sampling, judgmental sampling. Judgmental means your judgment to go there, the particular group of population who are in a position to provide that kind of right information. You have taken the judgment, so judgmental, and behind taking the judgment, there is a purpose, so purposive sampling. Purposive sampling. For example, if something happened in my college out of 2,500 students, then I will call the vice principals or the senior teachers sometimes. And finally, we brainstorm from where we can get the data, which section of the people, which section of the students. They out of 2,500, their number may be 25 or 30 only. Secretly, sometimes we do that. Or sometimes it's an open issue. Openly we do that because they are the representative of 2,500. It's possible. You have taken the judgment, and there is a purpose behind that. You cannot ask for Tom, Dick, and Harry because you have to waste your time, energy, source. This is what in by purposive sampling. Some sampling requires choice of experts. Experts. For example, on TV screen nowadays, people are coming and they're talking about what's called COVID-19, the precautions to be taken, and all those things. 3 to 4 people are coming. They are answering very, very, very well. It is nothing but the purposive sampling, judgmental sampling by the TV channel. TV channel, right kind of information. They possess the characteristics which our sample requires. Yes, we go to them and elicit the information. Next is quota sampling. Similar to stratified sample, stratified arts, commerce, science, assistant professors, associate professors, and what's called as professors, clerical cadre, and all those stratified strata classifications. Okay, now here, according to your judgment, you are taking now here. You are not applying that probability here. According to your judgment only you are taking. Impact of COVID-19 on industries. Your sample size is 100. Type of the industry, micro industries, you have taken 13. Small scale industries, you have taken 15. Medium scale industries, you have taken 20. So totally 100. According to your convenience, according to your choice, not according to the probability. Quota, you are fulfilling the quota. Okay. And similarly, from 10 villages, if you have taken what's called as the small farmers, the marginal farmers, and the big farmers, and your sample size may be 500, small farmers 250, then 150, or the last one is maybe 50, like that, or 100, whatever may be. It's called as a quota sampling. One more example I can give is you are intending to conduct one research on TVs, their performance. Okay, and your sample size may be 250 or 300, whatever maybe. Then you are selecting the Sony TV, then Samsung, Panasonic, and other brands. And sample size may be 250. And Sony TV should be this much. Samsung should be this much. Then Panasonic should be this much. And others. So totally 250. You are fixing the quota, which is called as a quota sampling. And the final one is a snowball sampling. You might have heard about snowball sampling. Sample begins with a few respondents, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 in the beginning, to provide afterwards reference for the research. For example, sometimes when some what's called as problems committed by the students and all that, theft taking place and all that. Now, because of the camera and all that, not possible. But the people or the students who have stolen, they will not open them out. Sometimes we take the information from others. So with the reference. So next to next to next to next, like that we are going to get the information by investigation. For example, in case of some theft or crime or whatever may be, the police department uses this technique, snowball sampling. Snowball sampling. So sample begins with the few respondents who provide referrals for the research, sets the contact of additional respondents. This is called as a snowball sampling. Now, this is not the sampling technique. You might have heard about focus group interview. This is very important to get very relevant, useful, vital information. Focus group interview means this is unstructured. Let's see what in the unstructured. Free flowing interview with a small group of around 6 to 10 people. Focus groups are led by a trained moderator who follows a flexible format, encouraging among respondents. For example, employee programs, employee satisfaction, brand meanings, problems with the product advertising, teams, etc. If there are problems and if you are doing a research on this, I think focus group interviews is the best solution so that we can get additional vital information. For example, you have to invite 6 to 8 people maximum. Okay, maximum. The researcher, you have to invite and you have to make them comfortable, offering a cup of tea and some gifts in the beginning, small gifts and all that. And you should have told in the beginning itself why you are inviting. You are doing a sincere research, honest research. You are committed. Since you know the expertise knowledge in my field, and I am inviting some 6 to 8 people somewhere, and you are what's called as giving the momentum to that discussion for next 1 hour, 1.5 hours. There should be a system to record. Then you are putting the questions one by one, one by one, one by one. Okay, you are recording it. And one speaks for 5 to 10 minutes. Taking the clue from that, the other one speaks. The next one speaks. Cross-fertilization of ideas. Chances are there emerging fantastic ideas. And these ideas have come not from the books, not from the journals, right from the field. And this is the original information. Original information. Explicit information you might have heard about, and implicit information. Implicit information means implicit information from one head to another head it is possible. Ultimately, it will come to your research, which is explicit. Explicit. For example, in UK, when my guide had been to UK for the first postdoctoral research, there is a concept called as water cooler concept. Water cooler concept means 2-3 professors are coming at the particular time and they're taking the water from the water cooler and they're talking on some area for 10, 15, 20 minutes. 3 different people, expertise, talking for 15 minutes. What kind of original information we are going to get? And through this focus group interview, it's possible to get the right kind of original information, which is quite useful to your research. I think my time is running short of time, and I completed the what's called as sampling techniques. In the beginning, we discussed about the sampling, yes, a subset of the total population, and then broadly divided into what's called as probability sampling and non-probability sampling. And in probability sampling, population frame unique identification is very, very important. And there are 4 methods. Simple random sampling, rarely used in academics. Systematic random sampling, stratified random sampling, and what's called as cluster and multi-stage sampling. Where the population frame is not available, then we should go for what is the next method is non-probability sampling. And it here also it includes 4 methods, that is convenience sampling, purposive judgmental sampling, quota sampling, and the last one is snowball technique. So with this my limited knowledge, I clarified some of the aspects of highly technical area in research, that is sampling and different techniques of sampling. So from my side, it is over. Now let us see a few questions, if you have the questions.
Thank you, sir. Participants, if you have any questions, please raise your hands.
Now, how to deal with the questions?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
ரெண்டு கூட அது அதி விரும்பியது மீண்டும் வேண்டும்.
And there is one question, which
Yes, sir.
sampling will be useful for the beginner? So my dear participant, it does not depend upon a beginner or a
ரெண்டு குடிக்கும் சாலது తినరేగా ఇంకా ములుగ తినాలి లేదా తినకూడదు అయ్యి మా ఒకరికి రాయి మనది కొంత ఆరాసిత కాదుదా ఏ అవుతుంది వస్తుంది
Someone. Sir, I think there's some problem. in my
this
side.
can be useful for the beginner researchers. My dear participant, it does not depend upon you are a beginner or a very senior man. It depends upon your nature of field. To fix this, the sample size should be representative. Representative in the sense that it should not be too big, and at the same time it should not be too small. It should be representative. And in consultation with your guide and with the help of the statistician, you can you can determine the sample size, for which knowledge of statistics is very, very important. Sir,
Hello.
someone said for research papers, yeah, research papers sample size usually less, okay, compared to your PhD research. PhD research, the sample size should be more, should be representative. But in case of writing a paper for presentation, publication, I think it is a small only, because you are taking a small area.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Good afternoon,
Yes.
sir. I am Bhagyalakshmi.
Ah,
Sir, I would like to ask something. Medium traders in Coimbatore district, Tamil Nadu, sir.
okay.
In this topic, which method of sampling is best for data collection, sir?
Okay. Which district you said, the geographical area?
Coimbatore district, Tamil Nadu, sir.
Okay, Coimbatore district. Okay.
Investigation and implementation strategy of GST on small and medium traders. Only I am collecting reviews, sir. After framing the questionnaire, which method of sampling will be helpful
Okay.
for data collection, sir?
Okay. Now, your name is Mrs. Bhagyalakshmi, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Doctor.
Can you get the population frame? Population frame is the people, I think small traders, isn't it? Small trader?
and medium traders.
Small and medium traders.
Is it
Can-
possible? It is unknown, sir.
No,
It is very difficult
no,
for
it is not.
small
No,
medium
it is not unknown, because it is there in the department. It is there in the department, isn't it? It is there in the department, and it is a finite population. Finite population means a definite number, because
we can collect
GST.
GST officer or a
GST office,
organization?
GST office, GST office,
Okay.
GST office. Yeah, the number is finite.
Oh,
The
okay.
number is finite, isn't it? Number is finite.
Okay, sir.
Then afterwards you select it. Afterwards.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And I think you can think of what is called as systematic random sampling. Means, for example, entire Coimbatore means, don't take each and every the small trader and the medium trader. Take the representative of that.
Okay, sir.
Okay, take the representative. And again, what I said, arts, commerce, and all that. If there are any classification of business there also, in that also you can take. But number is finite, population frame is available. Therefore, you can apply what is called as a probability sampling.
Okay, okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir, for your
Thank you.
suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, very much audible.
Thank you so much. It was you make it so simplified for us. And for me, as a first timer, it was a great learning, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. We will love to attend more also.
Thank you.
So my question is, like, I haven't done my PhD, but it's on the process. But there is one question in my mind which I want to. So basically, the question might be tourism development and its effect of the employment. So basically, I want to choose one small place where, because of the tourism development, how can the employment can be effective to that generation. So the question for mine in terms of sampling is the area I want to, like sir has given an example of the Kerala to district, all this. But for me is inside the district. I don't want to take as a district, because that district itself has different tribes or different. So I want to take one area, or say one of the community which has around 7 or 8 villages,
Mm.
and among that I want to see the like I want to learn how many people are working and not working, and then if tourism comes, how can it help? So this is what in my ideas, sir. So how can in terms of sampling, how will be I able to take in order to go more further steps?
Okay, okay,
Type of sampling. Yes.
yeah. Now, after listening to and all those things, is it possible to go for convenience sampling and to certain extent a combination of judgmental sampling?
Okay.
You know the convenience sampling?
Yes, so we have just judgmental. I'm very, very clear on the judgmental is where you talk orally to say the
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, right.
convenient sampling is like when there's no unique identification. That's
No,
what.
no, no, no. Convenience co. This is not read. Unique identification not required.
Okay.
In the to the last four,
Mm.
convenience sampling, judgmental sampling, quota sampling,
Mm.
and the snowball sampling, unique identification not required.
Yes.
Not required. And one more thing is that, for
Mm.
example,
Mm.
you do not have the proper sample size, for example, okay, but you have administered the questionnaire or administering the questionnaire.
Mm.
My point is, after certain level, you are going to get only the repeated answers only,
Yes.
not new answers at all.
Yes, sir.
Stop it. That itself is your sample size.
Okay, but sir, I have like you have shown, like for example, you have shown about that the example of the cluster. What is that? Why
Multi-stage,
can't,
multi-stage.
yes. So why can't I use this where I have to divide the village with how many boys, or how many men, how many women within a certain age, how many are working. So with this, can I not make it in this multi-stage or the cluster multi-stage? Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But in the beginning, I think you told it's a small area, you said, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. But okay, even in the small area, if it is possible, at least create 3 stages. It's okay. It's okay. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Yeah. But to use the cluster or the multi-stage, it's a probability sampling. You need to have what is called as a population frame.
Mm-hmm.
Population frame is nothing but a unique identification. In my previous example, I think one I had given the example of Gram Panchayat and self-help groups,
Yes.
and other one I have given the farmers finally. In
Yes.
both the cases, it is possible to get the identification. I think it is the ration card or the Aadhaar number. Yeah, if it is possible, today itself, you think it over, today itself, applying the theory.
Okay, sir, but you are suggesting it use a convenient and a judgmental.
That also you can think of. That also you can think of. If you did unique identification is not available.
Okay, so one thing is, can I combine all this?
Yeah, which one combination?
For example, using convenient, judgmental, and in some area, like the way you said, you
Okay. Yeah, yes, I understood. You have raised a very pertinent question. You combine it, but don't commit it in writing.
Okay. So you do it and see what answer comes better and
Yeah. Yes. Understood, na? Understood.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
thank
Yes,
you
yes.
so much. It will be, we will love to attend more classes of yours. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Sweetie, I think our organizer,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think any more questions?
Yes, sir. I can't. I have some problem selecting them. That's why. Okay, sir. We can wind up, sir.
Okay, okay. So thank you to your principal and Sweetie for inviting me.
Thank you, sir.
And I really thankful to the wonderful participants. I think number is also very huge. I think the culture of research, I think is very good in Tamil Nadu. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So I call upon Professor Kalaiarasan, sir, to give vote of thanks.
Good evening to one and all present here. On behalf of the Department of Commerce Shift 2 and IQAC, first of all, my sincere thanks to God Almighty for making today's event a grand success. By His blessings and grace, we are able to make the event what it was. I give a really heartfelt word of thanks to our chief guest, Dr. Sridhara Shetty, Principal, SM Shetty College, Mumbai, Maharashtra, who spent his busiest time gracing the occasion. Your thoughts have enlightened our minds and shown us a new path in sampling and techniques. Thank you, sir. I thank our management, Reverend Dr. Brother Arokya Raj, Director and Secretary, Dr. Fatima Vasant, Academic Director, Dr. Usha George, Principal, Vice Principals, Dr. Geeta Rufus, and Dr. Meena for their constant support and encouragement in organizing this 8 days professional development program. I express my sincere thanks to all the participants for taking part in this event. Last but not least, I thank our department faculty, Dr. Sweetie Regina Mary, Head Department of Commerce Shift 2, and Professor Janathanam for their wonderful cooperation and collaboration in organizing this 8 days faculty development program. Thank you one and all.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr.
Thank you,
Sweetie,
sir.
can I leave?
Yes, sir. You can leave, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.